art, comedy, pop culture, and much more. ACPN.
We're here to talk about the house from. What could you tell us about it?
Oh yeah, it's a documentary I made about what it's like to live in a famous house from a movie or TV show.
Very cool. And I feel like I've been on most of this journey with you, from Santa Claus to Ghost Heads to Barney a couple of years ago, and now this one.
You
Uh,
are wearing what, that New York City Ghostbusters shirt?
oh yeah, I'm part of the NYCGB.
Yeah, you gotta
So
love the NYC
yep.
Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah. What I want to say first and foremost, what I appreciate about the documentary is the fact that similar to Barney is the balance you take with it, seeing the positives in the people that you visit, and then on the flip side, seeing the negatives. And we'll get to that. We'll get to both, but I appreciate the balance of the yes
Yeah,
and
it's storytelling, right? Like like Act One is setting up what it's like to live in a famous house. What is a famous house? A lot of people don't even know that people live in some of these houses. Like especially when talking to the owner of the Friday house, she's like, so many people come up to me like, I can't even believe someone actually lives here. And then Act Two is showing like sort of the problem, the issues. Goonies, Breaking Bad, like some of the Home Alone stuff. There are some scenarios where people have issues with this stuff. And then three is some of these houses go away. They can't be safe forever, but there are people out there like Twilight, Silence of the Lambs, Short Circuit,
Mhm.
Outsiders, Christmas Story that save and preserve these houses and treat them like museums.
This might be a two-parter or a one-parter. Who was the nicest and or coolest person you talked to?
Well, I mean, everyone was nice, thankfully. Liz, who owned the Kane Harley Wade house, and so many different houses, so many different movies and TV shows in that house was super nice. Bianca was very nice, the lady who owns the Halloween house from
Mhm.
that where Jamie Lee Curtis sits in the corner there. But the coolest is not a house owner, was being able to work with Jason Lee being our narrator. I mean, that
Right.
such a huge Mallrats fan, chasing him. I mean, anything Kevin Smith. And then My Name is Earl is like one of my favorites, and Almost Famous, Vanilla Sky. He's just
Mhm.
like stellar. So to be able to work with him and him read some of the stuff that I wrote with my friend Ryan Petrillo was unreal.
Right. How did that come about?
Instagram, and I'm persistent. You know, uh,
Persistence
I
pays off.
yeah, like I started talking to him on Instagram. He had seen the Bill Murray story, so he's familiar with that. And when it came down to a narrator for this, we wanted someone that had a voice in television, someone that you're used to hearing. So
Mhm.
it's really like him or oh God, why am I blanking on his name? Daniel Stern. It's like, those are the sort of voices, the sounds that we were looking for. And I've always had such a fondness for Jason Lee's voice.
Mhm.
So I started talking to him there, and then went to the proper channels with his managers and agents. I forget which one it was. I think it was agent. And then yeah, just made it happen. We filmed it right outside North Hollywood, banged it out 2 hours, and it was amazing. And like even him, like when we were talking, he's like, "Oh, this makes me feel like I'm back at Earl," And he even added like, I have a couple takes where he's like, "Randy," it's so funny. Like I mean, I'm just a big fan of that stuff.
That's awesome. I think that's the other thing I appreciate about your documentaries, and I couldn't put a word to it then, and I feel like either this has happened more recently or I'm just getting to that age where I'm realizing it myself, where nostalgia wise, what you remember from the past and kind of getting that itch for nostalgia where it takes you
Yeah.
back to a simpler time. And I think that's what I appreciate about your documentaries is as a kid you remember Santa Claus. As a
Mm-hmm.
kid you remember what it's like to watch Ghostbusters. I wasn't big on Barney, but I remember that time where there was the whole pro anti Barney campaigns, and
Yeah,
now with the houses.
Yeah, we like to take things that are kind of like in your everyday or something you're aware of, and try to show you an alternative way to look at it. Santa Claus, it's like actually, our it's not out yet, but I think it's this November or definitely by December. We're having our 10th anniversary Blu-ray come out.
Oh
So
wow.
we're working with Enjoy the Ride Records. They do stuff with
Hmm.
Vinegar Syndrome.
Hmm.
So we put like 5 extra hours on it. New interviews with Mick and stuff like that. And
Jesus.
Foley. That's fun. But yeah, I mean, like here's this thing that you grew up knowing. Bill Murray. Here's this guy you grew up watching. You know,
Hmm.
Barney. Here's this thing you grew up either liking or hating. And like give you this alternative way to look at it. We've all watched Full House. We've all watched these movies. We've all watched these TV shows. We've seen these houses, and we think these people what we watch the TV show. We think the Golden Girls really live in the Golden Girls house, but they don't. What it's like to
Hmm.
really live in these spots that have become the new Eiffel Tower, the new Mount Rushmore, the new White House. It's like these places because pop culture is so ingrained in us
Hmm.
nowadays. Movies are 100 years old. Pop culture has almost become the new religion, where more people worship the X-Men versus, any whatever religious sort of thing you do. And it just it fills that hole, it fills that need. And so people visit these spots like it was the Vatican.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I'm not, I don't think, I think for if I have a younger audience, I don't know, but peeling back the screen from like movie magic where a lot of these houses it's just the facade, it's not
Yeah.
the insides. And it's funny because I keep thinking about this. I moved to Monmouth County about 2 years ago. I was looking for a doctor at the beginning of the year, and I'm looking at the map to get to the doctor, and I all of a sudden I see Sabrina the Teenage Witch House, and I'm like, what? So
Whoa.
I look it up. Literally about maybe 10 minutes away is the facade from the Sabrina the Teenage Witch House.
Really? In
Yep.
Monmouth County? That's crazy.
Hmm.
Huh. That's awesome. Yeah.
So,
Like, there's so many houses that are just like there, you don't even know. Like, I mean, that central Jersey area, but like,
mhm.
the Pete and Pete houses are out there, like,
Right, right.
it's there's these spots that you walk by, like, oddly enough, do you remember like Kid and Play?
Yeah,
They made a movie called House Party, and
right.
you think a movie called House Party, people would show up, but no one ever goes to the House Party house.
It's true. So to that lengthy point that I was getting to between the Sabrina house, were you surprised with any of the interior versus exteriors for the houses?
No, I mean, well, God, the Uncle Buck house is amazing inside. It's unbelievable. I mean, not that it was bad in the movie or anything like that, but like the guy just made his own study in like his den, and it's amazing. He didn't want to film it on inside, which is totally understandable. But what I loved about Jeff Franklin when he talked about the Full House house, here's a person who owns the house that he made famous, and he was like, constructually, it doesn't make sense. Like, like the way the steps go up and the hallway goes left to right,
Mhm.
you would have like a whole part of the house just like hang over. It doesn't make sense when compared to the way the set was. So it was really interesting to hear his perspective because you
Right.
hear like let's say Friday or Pee Wee Herman. These are people who had that house during that time, and they could see their house on screen, but it's not on the inside. Whereas Jeff Franklin now owns that house, and he was the one that created what the inside looked like. So it was interesting to see his perspective at the time owning it because he doesn't own it anymore.
Mhm.
At the time owning it and then creating the show.
Yeah. Flipping over to the negative portions where like there was I'm thinking of the Goonies house in particular where the neighbors are kind of like I like the part where the new owner and his friend bought the other house and he's like, don't listen to Karen.
Yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah.
I feel like it reminded me a lot of, I don't know if you remember this one, but in Brooklyn in Dyker Heights, they have the Christmas displays. And
No, no.
I want to say about 20 years ago this started up, and what they did was one house, or maybe two houses at that time. They took like these big, like maybe like fairly big houses going down one of the main streets there, they had like these Chagunda nutcrackers and lights of all kinds. And at originally the neighbors were like, "Oh, we can't stand this. There's too much traffic," and that's what made me think. It made me think of that when you said Jeff Franklin, because I know he was saying how they don't want him to do the bus tours down there,
Yeah.
or like Goonies where they're fighting it. These people were fighting the Christmas lights for the longest time, and now it's gotten to the point where the entire block does the Christmas lights.
That's great. Yeah,
So
buy in,
they've
right?
embraced it.
Yeah, you can't beat them, join them. I mean, the thing about like you look at some of these houses, like Full House. I mean, these are $4 million homes, and Winnetka, $4 million homes, Cleveland or Tulsa for the Outsider's House, A Christmas Story. These are not $4 million homes. They
Mhm.
are areas in which they're more welcome because you're not spending so much to live there. If you spent $4 million living in your house, you don't want to deal with this sort of tourist all the time.
True.
So I think there is like these certain areas like Astoria, San Francisco. They just don't want that sort of commercial in a residential area. Whereas,
Hmm.
Tulsa, Oklahoma for the outsiders or Cleveland, yeah, Cleveland, they're fine with it because the area is welcome that sort of tourism.
How about Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Dude, I'll tell you, I mean, Albuquerque, it's the homeowners are different, but like, I mean, the tourists in that town alone like brings so much money. There's a guy that just has that RV and just drives it all around, and like there's
Oh
big
wow.
money in that tourism area. That the owner of the Walter White House, has a difficult relationship, but I also feel bad for her because she's on TikTok screaming and yelling at people, and so people then go there to almost be yelled at, like, oh, I got yelled at by the. So it's not the most
Mm,
pure sort of positive going experience because people are going there for some of the wrong reasons.
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, Goonies. Some people, there are some fans that get a little too much. But
That's the I was thinking of that too, and you can probably equate because I know you're a wrestling fan too, where you see a lot of these wrestlers on social media going, dude, don't come up to me in an airport and ask me for an autograph, and then expect me to be nice about it.
dude, I
And
just
I
bought I just bought the white Intercontinental belt from the Shawn Michaels sort of.
the Cody one.
No, 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 no. Well, Cody brought back the WWE one.
Oh,
I have
fair.
the WWF one.
Fair.
Yeah, I
I don't
bought
know
the.
why I always equate it to Cody now because I know
No,
he
you're
calls
right.
out.
I was just being like a little snot.
Fair. No, that's fair.
And then I bought the baby blue eagle strap that Warrior had.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a good one. I'm really excited about it.
those are awesome. Speaking of wrestling, that little cameo from Mick,
How great is that?
I'm
So,
like,
yeah, I mean, because
oh,
I try to put a wrestler in every single one of our movies, and then it was Dewey, his son, posted this picture of Mick at the Halloween house doing the pumpkin bit. And I was like, oh my God, that is hilarious. I never thought
oh,
Mick would do something like that. It's so funny. It's like, Dewey, can I please use those pictures? And he checked Mick and all that stuff. We put it in there. But we don't draw attention to it. We don't lower third it, but people who know, they know. And then there's a picture of me with Danny Boy O'Connor outside the Outsider's house, and I'm wearing a Jericho shirt.
I noticed that. That was awesome too. I love
Yeah,
the
I love
little
Chris.
Easter eggs, and that I noticed Meanie and his wife were credited in the Kickstarter too.
Well, yeah, I mean, God, I don't have it, but if you look at our poster, there's two posters we have, right?
Mhm.
There's the one that's for on iTunes and Amazon and Google. It's a yellow poster, and it's everyone staring at the Goonies house.
Mhm.
And if you look at it, the right side, Blue Meanie is right there looking at the house.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So going back to Breaking Bad, did you attempt to reach out to that woman, or was it kind of like no?
Yeah, I talked to her. It just wasn't right for her.
Okay. But she wasn't like, shut up, go away,
No,
leave me
she's very
alone.
nice to me.
Oh,
Yeah, I enjoyed my conversations with her.
that's good. That's good. So maybe it's just to your point, maybe it's just, these people harass her so much that she's got to be like, get off my property, I'm calling the cops kind of thing.
Absolutely. Like when I came on the show, I was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I wasn't like, "F you, F you, F you." Like if you start cursing at people, you're,
Right.
you're gonna give it right back.
Right. And I think going back to what you were saying, there's these people who are welcoming, like the Halloween house, or the one that I thought was amazing was the Rubio house,
Oh
where
my God, yeah.
seems
Well,
like
yeah, and that's so cool. So the Rubio House, it's like, I went there because I love Can't Hardly Wait, and that was to me the Can't Hardly Wait house. But as I talked to her, she's like, "Oh well, yeah, Can't Hardly Wait. I guess that was there. That was before we lived here. But it's been American Pie, This Is Us, Cheaper by the Dozen, a Tim Allen movie, a Lindsay Lohan movie, NCIS, Ghost Whisperer, Criminal Minds. Like all these shows were
yeah,
shot in this one house, and you see that same shot over and over and over. It's so fascinating. And
and that's
Always Sunny in Philly is there.
mhm. um Matt had left me a question because he was going to join me on this, but he couldn't make it. So Can't Hardly Wait and Ghost Whisperer, were those the only two that Jennifer Love Hewitt were in that house that you could think of?
I mean, the only two. It's crazy that there is two. But yeah. I would love to know if when she went there, if she was like, huh.
I
I'd be
feel
so
like I've been in
curious.
this house before.
Yeah, like there had been. I wonder like what that thought process is. Like you're going in, going this has to look familiar, but not placing it. Because they only shot the King Harley Wait House for like a week. And
Mhm.
the rest was all interiors in I think San Clarita or Valencia. But yeah, you gotta think that she remembered it going back. I would hope so.
Hmm. That's very cool.
I mean,
And the
look, but
cake.
like what's funny is like so in South Pasadena, there's a street called Bushnell Avenue or Bushnell Street, I forget.
Right, right,
But
Bushnell.
there's so many different shows and movies in one block. You have Biff's house from Back to the Future, and then when Biff
Hmm.
kicks the ball on the roof, it's Luke Wilson's house from Old
Old
School.
school.
And yeah, and then what else? And then
You mentioned Ghost Dad in there. I found that that funny.
yeah, Ghost Dad. But then also the house next to Old School was Lorraine's house from Back to the Future, which is also the teen house. So Michael J. Fox has been on that block twice for three different movies: Back to the Future Two, and um, Teen Wolf.
Well, that's pretty awesome. You
Yeah,
think you think about some of these actors' careers, and it's like they're probably like, wasn't I here for this
yeah,
movie? And it
yeah.
doesn't matter. I'll shoot this
And you
movie.
got to think Back to the Future and Teen Wolf were like probably like back to back filming.
85.
Yeah.
So those are probably around the same time. Do you think in the case of Bushnell and the Rubio house, there's like a place they like put it up in the want ads? If you're looking for a place to shoot, or just that people like that place, that area.
Yeah. Well, like, South Pasadena in general is like a place that doesn't look like California. So it just looks like anywhere. You could totally fit in. I mean, you look at that new show Shrinking, like that's all done in Pasadena, and they just look like your normal sort of average houses, but still fantastic. Bushnell, I can't really speak for that, but like Rubio House, it's a great house. Like the way
Mhm.
it's designed, there's enough length on the grass to put the camera so you can get a good established shot where you see the whole thing.
Mhm.
The rooms are wide and bigger, so they could put crew in there. And I think once like a person knows that the homeowners are like good people, like that's what they say
Mm,
about like kid actors. Like you're not really auditioning the kid, you're auditioning the parent. And
right,
I
right,
think with the house, it's like once someone knows that they're like really good to work with and like are accommodating, like I think they want to get that repeat business.
right. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're making me think also, speaking of people, choosing the houses and what to do. I'm thinking of the Home Alone house, John, the original owner, when they're talking about having them film everything, and then, oh hey, Kevin cut a tree down in the backyard.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is like they went there and watched the movie, and they're watching the scene where Home Alone, Kevin McAllister, Macaulay Culkin, cuts down a tree and uses it for a Christmas tree in the house. And they go, "Oh, that looks really real. That's interesting." And they went in their backyard,
It
like, "No, they
was.
actually did cut the tree down." That's
So is that, do you know, is that do filmmakers have like a carte blanche when they sign the contract, or is that like kind of a case by case thing where
well, in particular with their contract, it was like, they had to be asked about any sort of thing that happened. But if they weren't available, they could just move forward.
mm,
So the family chose to be there for a large chunk of the filming. This particular day, they were out to dinner and like unreachable
mm.
because we didn't have cell phones back then.
Right, right.
Yeah, so yeah, they just did it. But it's funny, and this is difficult to understand, but like, so when they're filming a movie, and sometimes like, so Home Alone was like in the house, but also on the set. So
Mm.
whenever time you see like Kevin looking out a window and it's a set, they had to take pictures from that perspective, and they would blow up
Mm.
stuff. So they had these like shots of like the neighborhood. So when it was a set, you would see what would really be out those windows. And apparently, they use these pictures and these like because they're so big, they use them
Right.
for other things that sometimes. And when Lauren, the child of the former owner of the Home Alone house, was watching one of the last two episodes of Friends,
Mm.
and Chandler and Monica were like looking at houses. I guess I forget where they were looking at, but they looked out the window and it was that same background for Home Alone. Like the Lauren was like, "Oh my God, that's the view of my window," and it was
Oh
like so
wow.
funny that like she noticed that that's the background for the Home Alone was the same background in that one episode of Friends,
That's crazy. That's Hollywood for you,
right?
trying to recycle something out of something else, like if they have it
Well, I
laying
mean, you think
around.
about it, it's like why take new pictures if you just need it for like it's like no one cares what's out the window of that friend's house, in the last
Right.
second to last episode. So like, oh, we got this picture here. You want to use it? And I'm sure that when they used it, they didn't know it was Home Alone. It was probably just marked like snowy outdoor window, you
Oh
know?
my God. It's amazing. Just an amazing documentary altogether. Do you think you'll do like a sequel of did you were there any houses that you missed that you wanted to get to, or
I would have loved to get to the Boy Meets World house, the Sopranos house. It just didn't work out. I would love to have got inside the Freddy Krueger house. That would have been cool. Um,
I was waiting for that one.
yeah, we showed like some guy standing out front. Like the homeowner, the former homeowner that really like brought it back to its glory. She talked to me, but she just didn't want to be on camera, and I
Mm.
whatever. And but then the current owner, the owner of the time, was like a well-known director, and
Oh,
she's not going to be like, "Oh yeah, I live here." So it just didn't work out. But yeah, I mean, we've always been exploring the idea of turning this into a show, but who knows?
it really has potential, because I was even thinking of it before I got on with you. I'm like, you could do one about, it doesn't have to be about homes. It could be about like cars, like DeLorean and Ecto, or you could have one about like pets that maybe people have seen in different movies, or
Yeah,
props. There's a lot of potential there.
yeah, and it's just hard with shows anymore. You really need a true crime or someone to die in one of these things to really get
Eh,
into it, you
but
know?
again, like I said at the beginning, it's all about the nostalgia and what's taking
Yeah.
people back.
Well, I know, that things are just sometimes a fun watch, but, for streamers, they're going to want to get eyeballs on their streaming platform, and that usually comes with true crime, and that's
Fair.
what a
That's
large amount
that's
of
fair.
people check out, so I mean, there's
No,
time and place for all that stuff, but not every day.
maybe you could stick a crime going on in the background.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what's funny, like, I mean, yeah, I think it's public knowledge. But like at the time when we shot this, Jeff Franklin, he not only owned the Full House house, but he also owned the Manson murder house on Cielo Drive. Like he had
Mhm.
knocked it down and built a new house. And like I had lunch with him there. I was like, it was right when the time when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was happening. So it was like,
Mhm.
in the mindset, and it was really cool to be there. And just for him at that time to have owned like the two most infamous houses in the world.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nuts. So
Yeah, I asked Jeff to film there. He's like, no.
please, could I get like a true crime element into my documentary?
Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah, but like,
Yeah.
but God, amazing, amazing, beautiful house.
Very awesome. Tommy, thanks for chatting with me.
No
The
problem, man.
House
Anytime.
from The House from, go watch it. It's out now or it's out on Monday? From.
From, that's all right.
Check that
Thehousefrom.com.
out.
This, I'm not sure when this is coming out, but this Sunday it will be on the Maximum Effort channel, and
Yes.
Monday, October 28th, it will be on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, all those sort of spots.
That was the other thing I meant to ask. So Maximum Effort, Ryan Reynolds involved in this one.
Yeah, who doesn't love
That's
Van Wilder, right?
right. Or Deadpool.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was just grew up with
Van
such a Van
Wilder was
Wilder fan. I mean, God, like I remember watching Two Guys, a Girl in a Pizza Place, and thinking this guy's hilarious, and then seeing the trailers for Van Wilder, I was like, oh, that's the guy from the Two Guys, a Girl in a Pizza Place, and then obviously he blows up, and like Just Friends is hilarious, and
I
definitely
love that
Maybe is
movie.
great, just such a great guy, and obviously killing it with the Deadpool movies, but early fan over here.
That's awesome. Normally I would finish by saying what's next, but I already know what's next. You're doing a MySpace doc.
Yeah, I'm really
So,
excited. We're in pre-production, and it's interesting for me to like shift my brain to like, selling the house from, and then going to like pre-production for the MySpace thing. But God, I mean, I just grew up with MySpace. I was like in my early 20s when that came out. It was so much fun. Great.
but
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Appreciate it.